Hi guys,
Hi guys,
I'm
I'm
TJ
TJ.
and welcome back to J Talk. Today we are not alone. We have a special guest. He goes by the name Brian Lambo. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, so my name is Brian Lambo. I'm the CEO and founder of Aka Ventures Africa and 01 Creations. So Aka Ventures Africa is pretty much an accelerator, if I can call it that, a digital accelerator. So Aka means to build in Zulu, and the whole aim is to help African entrepreneurs build ventures that can last, that can create jobs, and eventually scale. And with 01 Creations, it's mostly a marketing agency, and what we do is we run marketing campaigns for businesses, all the way from creating branding graphics to helping you run digital marketing campaigns on social media to get more clients. So yes, that's me. I don't know if there's anything else I should touch on.
No, I
And
think
yeah,
that
so
sums it up. Very interesting.
yeah, I'm also a student doing my final year at UCT, studying accounting, which I'm not enjoying. Story for another day. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I've been into business for I think like more than 5 years now. Started my first business when I was in grade 8. So ever since then, I've just been starting project on project.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting journey. I think that's pretty much more or less like a high level intro, like when I gave it like talks or seminars. But on a more personal level, so I can say, which is okay, I can't tell you my age, but so I'm from Pretoria. I'm from Pretoria, and I've been in business since grade 8, as I mentioned. And after matric, I was supposed to go to vets, and I decided not to because I was running away from my friends. And I'm sure they'll watch this. Jesus, I was running away from my friends because I noticed that we all into business. So I wanted to focus on my studies, and I knew if I still hang around with them, there's no way I can finish my studies or focus. So I was like, no, let me go to Cape Town, UCT, start afresh, become a good student, and stop all these business ventures. But when I got to Cape Town, I couldn't stop them. So I found myself back in business like 3 months later. And ever since then, I've just been building connections, building businesses. Um, People think I don't have a lot of time because a lot of people think I'm busy. During my free times, I do watch movies. I like going out quite a lot. And I do go out quite a lot, dear Jesus. But I just try to chill most of the time with just my friends, watch movies, read books.
Okay. Seeing as how you mentioned going out, please can you tell us just how do you keep a balance between school, work, and also having time to go out and have a full life? How do you do it?
Honestly, there's no such thing as a balance between school, business, and a social life. I don't want to lie, there's no such thing. And if you try to balance it, that's when you find that both areas they suffer and you don't actually make any progress. One thing I always believe in is that even though you can't balance things out, it's just a matter of priorities as to what's important.
Yeah.
And most of the times, it depends on what's important to you at that moment. Because let's say for now with me, we haven't started with school. The only thing that's important now is business. I'm not touching any books, even though I should, but I'm not touching any books. I'm focused on business stuff because that's the important thing now. But later on, when we open school, school will become more important than business, but it doesn't mean I'll neglect business. So I think it all depends as to what's important to you at that moment. So you can't, if you try to balance it out, it's not going to work. Trust me, it's not. Here's one thing I definitely believe in, and I try to put it to practice most of the time: building habits and rituals. Because I think it's important, especially if you in the business space, or if you involved in quite a lot of things, it's important for you to develop habits and rituals. And by habits and rituals, those are things which you know that, let's say every morning when you wake up, you can, if you pray, I mean, you can pray, read the Bible or read a book, or listen to a short sermon or a motivational clip. And if you do those things every time, they just help to put you in a state where you can shut shut off everything else and just focus on that thing, just relax, chill. So I think it's important to just consistently build habits and rituals in everything you do, even if it's going to the gym. If you want to succeed in like having the physique you want, I mean, develop a habit of going to the gym. Make it a ritual. You know, sometimes you get to a point where you like sit down and like, yo, I didn't go to the gym today. I'm not feeling okay. And then once you get to those points, that's when you actually grow. That's when you develop yourself because now it's a habit and it's a ritual. So I think it helps you just to keep a clear head and also avoid a lot of things and toxic people as well. So with regards to the social life aspect, I think it's mostly influenced by the people you surround yourself with. Uh, Based on the company you keep, it depends on whether you make it a priority or not, whether it's important to you or not, because people are always having fun. There are always things to do. You always have people around you can hang out with. So I think the people you hang out with, they also have an influence on how active you are on your social life. When it comes to some of us, Tina, yo, I'm mostly surrounded by serious people. Mostly surrounded by people who are just like focused and all that. And we do go out, but it's one of those things that you find that for 3 weeks, everyone is working. We're not going out, we're not doing anything. We're all putting in the work. But like there's just that 1 week where we can all meet. No one's working the whole week. We're not working. We're going out, we can go to restaurants, we can go to like movies, we can watch, play games, do all of those things.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing with us. The next question I just wanted to ask was, what is the most useful resource or tool or book that you've ever encountered to date? Like, if there's a lot, just top 3. Yes.
Books, ne? I don't want to lie, ne? Before, let me say, honest, I don't want to lie. So let me just say, I think, yeah, from last year, 2019, before 2020, actually, I used to read a book like once a year. I think like I only read one book or once in 2 years. I don't know. I wasn't really into books, but at an early age, when I was like in high school, back in high school, secondary, that's when I used to read a lot. But as time progressed, I like stopped reading because I got too busy. And that's one thing I see happens with a lot of entrepreneurs, that they end up being too busy or too invested in what they're doing that they don't find time for themselves. And that's one thing I noticed for myself as well, that I was too deep into the business space. I was working all the time. Even my family knew I slept with my laptop next to me. It was always next to me. If you remove my laptop next to me, yo, we're going to have a serious problem. Because I was always working. I didn't have time for myself. And I didn't realize that I wasn't growing, like as an individual, personal, and also business-wise, I wasn't growing because I didn't have time to learn new skills. I didn't have time to start the market, what's happening. But then from last year, that's when I decided to just change the whole approach. I was like, no, let me start taking time for myself and also just to read a book. I can't read a book a week or a month, so I'll try to probably like read one chapter in 1 month. Yeah, that's one, because I wanted to break down the task into smaller pieces, something that I'm sure I can achieve. So that's how I started reading. I was like, no, let me just read one chapter a month, and I'll find that I'll actually finish the chapter in a week. And as time went, I finished the chapter in 2 days, and then it was a day. So now I try to read as much as I can. So the 3 books I can say, I'll just mention the 3 most recent ones. So 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and it talks about like how most businesses moved from nothing, or how they grew from nothing to building these big empires. So it just talks about like the whole thing of how you can move from 0 to 1. And it has a lot of business lessons, which I think you can practically apply into your business. And most of the things I learned in that book, like how to pay attention to small things, and most importantly, how to learn from the guys who've already made it. Because one thing is that I like one thing they mentioned, like in the book, they say if you still want to be like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, if you're trying to be like those guys, you haven't learned anything from them. Because we see a lot of entrepreneurs these days, they want to become the next Mark Zuckerberg, they want to become the next Bill Gates. But the most important thing is for you to build your own thing, start your own craft, and specialize in it. Whether it's important now or not, it doesn't matter. Because ultimately, if you're creating value for people, people will definitely want your product, they'll definitely want your service. So it has a lot of business lessons. And yeah, so that's 0 to 1. And then another one, this one is the one-page marketing plan. It's by Alan Dick. So it's mostly focused on marketing. So if you want to get into the marketing space or you want to build a marketing strategy for your business, it's a good book to read because it just helps you build a marketing strategy in just one page. So that's why the book is titled The One-Page Marketing Plan. It touches on the most important things like the message you have to tell your customers, how to even sort out your target audience, because most of the time we find that people want to sell a product or service, but you haven't defined your target audience properly. And I see this most of the time with entrepreneurs when you're like, so who are you targeting for a business? And they're like, no, I'm targeting everyone who owns a business, or I'm targeting people in Cape Town, or I'm targeting people who go to school. I'm like, those are hundreds of people or even thousands. And there's no guarantee that they even need your product. So that's the most important thing also. It also ties on, so the one-page marketing plan, linking it back to like 0 to 1, it also touches on the whole thing that you need to find a problem to solve, especially if you want to succeed in business. You need to solve a problem, because if you're not solving a problem, it's easy for you to not become active in the market, and it becomes hard for you to grow your business. So you have to identify a problem you solve and come up with a solution which people need. You see, because we see a lot of entrepreneurs these days also, they create apps. I have a friend of mine, he spent 30,000 rands to develop an app. It was 2019, yeah. To this day, I think the people who are using the app, it's just a guy, it's me, and another friend of ours. Imagine just 3 people, and he spent 30,000 rands because he didn't identify a problem he's solving. He just thought, oh, I have this like amazing idea, I want to do it. And another thing as an entrepreneur, never consult with your friends. Your friends will always agree with you. Even if you have like a stupid idea, they're like, no, go for it. Yeah, no, go for it, you see. So always try to consult with people who have experience in the business space and people who can give you solid feedback, not biased feedback, because that's how you can grow, build your model. Yes, and then the last book, that's the one I'm reading now. Yo, this book, guys. You know, a friend of mine told me about this book when we were in grade 10, and I wasn't interested. I just left it. He told me about it when I was doing second year as well. And yeah, I still ignored him. I was like, nah, I'm reading. What was I reading at that time? I think it was Saw by T.D. Jakes. Yeah, but and then this year, I was like, no, I want to read this book. So I bought the book, and then, Outliers. That book, it's just been unpacking like quite a lot of things and changing my perspective on a lot of things as well. Because he talks about how there's no such thing as a self-made man. And he talks about how people who succeeded, they did not succeed because of their hard work. They did not succeed because of the opportunities they were given. It's a range of things which contributed to that success. And one of the things which he definitely touches on is where we come from, the environment you're in, what you're exposed to definitely has an impact on the type of person you become. So I've just been learning about like the whole thing as to, it's important to work hard, but you need to acknowledge most of the time where you come from, the situation you're in, the environment you're in, because some people, they look at the situations they're in as like disadvantages, as if they're limiting factors. Whereas the most important thing is for you to change the perspective you have of the situation, which is why we have people who come from like, from tough backgrounds, rural areas and all that. But these people, they do succeed because they do not allow their environment to determine who they become. And most importantly, they exposed themselves to things they wanted to become. You see, because if you read like the story of Bill Gates as well, they touched on it on Outliers, how from a young age he was exposed to a computer, and he started like putting in the time, like learning how to code, and sometimes that even because it was expensive to like use computers back then, they even run like charity fundraisings at the school, so they can raise funds so they can use the computers. And when the funds ran out, they just find any available computer they can use so that they can do what? They can continue to practice, they can put in the time. And during those days, they were not doing it because they want to become like the richest men in the world, or they just want to become popular or famous. They were doing it because it's something they loved. They were doing it because they enjoyed it, you see, which is one thing which I also like tend to advise people these days, that when you're doing something, make sure you enjoy it. Make sure that it's something you love. Don't do something because you want to be rich. Don't do something because you want to be famous. Do it because it's something that you love doing, so that even when things are difficult, you don't give up. You keep on doing it because it's something you love doing. And Outliers also touches on this thing, the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know how many times I've heard about the 10,000 hour rule, but this was like the first time I read about it. And the main concept or message like I got from it was that practice makes perfect. You might not need 10,000 hours for you to master your craft. Maybe you need 5, maybe you need 10 or like 100 hours. But the most important thing is that when you're working on something, you need to put in the time, put in the hours. You need to continuously practice. And I can make like an example with myself. I started graphic designing when I was in grade 9. I was designing using my phone. So when I was removing a background, I was editing a picture. If I remove a background, it used to take me like 2 hours. I was busy rubbing on my phone, like removing the background. A year later, I met a friend, introduced me to Photoshop, started designing with Photoshop. It used to take me 5 days to design a poster, just one poster, 5 days. The following year, continued using Photoshop practice. Now it took me like 3 days to design a poster. The following year, continued to practice, took me 2 days. The following year, took me 1 day. Now it takes me less than an hour to design a poster. I can do it in like 10, 15 minutes because of what it's hours and hours of practice which I've put in. And it's something I enjoy doing. I mean, I used to skip lectures so I can design a poster. Like, I love doing it. Um, it's just the whole concept. So this book, I don't want to lie, it's fascinating. Definitely check it out. I haven't finished it yet, so now I started chapter 7 this morning, so I should finish it next week though. But yeah, so those are the 3 books. So it's the One-Page Marketing Plan by Alan Drift, 0 to 1, Peter Thiel, and Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. With regards to books, another thing, I was having a chat with a friend of mine, Samuel. He's the one running 01 now. We're just speaking about how it's important to be exposed to the right message at the right time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can read a book. Just because you're reading it doesn't mean the message is relevant to you at that time. Sometimes you find yourself reading a book and you can just read it completed and you haven't really learned anything out of the book. So it's important for you to always identify what's the message you want to hear at that time. What are you trying to grow? What's the specific skill you want to develop? And based on that, that's when you can identify a book you can read. This thing's making noise. So identify a book you can read, and then, just take it from there. Make sure all the time, just expose yourself to that. And it's important for you as the CEO or founders, read, guys. I wasn't reading. That's why almost most of my businesses failed. I wasn't reading. Now I'm starting to read. Things are picking up. I learned a lot from my mistakes. So always do that. Read.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you mentioned how you're always reading, but I just wanted to find out, what are your biggest influences, and if you have role models as well, who are they?
I think I started having role models like 2 years back, especially when I got to Cape Town. Because before then, I've always considered myself as my own role model, because I always wanted to be better than the person I was yesterday. So it was always a thing that I used to do a lot of reflection. Even now, I do a lot of reflection. I just check last week, what was I doing? Where was I? This week, whatever I learned, how have I grown, and what do I want to develop next? So it's always been a thing. Also, based on like the environment I come from, we're not exposed to quite a lot of things. So you don't see like people you can regard as role models quite a lot. But when I got to Cape Town, that's when I can say that's when I started engaging with people I look up to, people I work with, and I've like built solid relationships with. Someone I haven't yet built that relationship with, but I pray to God I will one day, definitely. Busi Tebewai, I love that guy. I love the work he's doing. I love his vision and the impact he's making, mostly, especially in the business space. So I've been following him for like, I don't know, the past 4 years. And most of his business lessons, I've been applying them into my business. And I've seen like an actual growth, like actual difference. So he's definitely had a huge impact on most of the things I've achieved, because when I look at him, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's possible. I can definitely get there, because more or less we have I think similar visions, and he's already doing it. So I definitely look up to him. But for other guys I've worked with personally, whom I've learned a lot from. So guy I first met in Cape Town when I was working with Sandra Spiri. So Sandra Spiri, he was the director of Startup Grind Cape Town, the largest independent startup community organization in the world. They're in more than 600 countries, no, more than 600 cities. And every month they host like monthly events. So he's the guy I worked with quite closely, and I became co-director because I was working with him and ended up running Startup Grind. And one of the things I learned from him is the importance of selling. That you can have an amazing product, but if you don't sell it, you can't get clients, you can't get revenue. Because it's easy to write a business plan and you're like, yo, I want to make 5 million like in 2 years. But if you don't pick up that phone and call someone and like, hey, I'm selling this thing, you're not going to make it. Even this morning, I think from like 8:30 today, I've been calling people because we're running a campaign for Valentine's. And I've been calling, I think I've called more than 40 people since in the morning, and almost half of them are interested. So it's the same thing that when you want to sell, grow your business, when you want to grow your business, definitely focus on selling. So Sanders Piri, and then like, who's the other guy? Oh, McKevin Ayaba, same guy, also has a similar vision, but he's based here in Joburg. He also he's in the startup ecosystem, and he also runs events and all those things. So I look up to those guys because most of them, they're doing what I'm doing, and I just go to them for advice so that I don't repeat some of the mistakes like they did in the past. So I can say, at the moment, those are like the 3 people I look up to who influence me, and also like my friend, the Ukanyisa Sonja. That guy. We met first year. First year we both studying accounting. That guy. One thing I learned from him. One thing I'm always learning from him. Just the importance of humbleness, like humility. If you're humble and trust in God, doors will always open for you. So that you shouldn't use your own like knowledge or understanding, but you must always be humble, be grateful for the opportunities God gives you, or for the people God brings into your life. So Kanyisa Sonja, I'll definitely add him to the list. So I can say those are the 4 people.